Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. There is a lot to cover, so bear with me. Gonna try and make it through this. For those of you who do not know, Bitcoin's price is down, and I spoke about this yesterday. I said within a couple of hours we should have some type of an indication as to why Bitcoin went down in price. And once again, there's a lot to cover. Without further ado, Bitcoin's price is down more than 12%, and it recently broke the 8,500 US dollar support against the US dollar. The price is currently correcting higher, but the 8,750 and $8,800 levels are preventing a recovery. Yesterday, we saw a Bitcoin breakdown in price below $10,000 support area against the US dollar. The price remained in a bearish zone and broke many supports near 9,800 and 9,500. Moreover, there was a break below the $9,000 support and the 100-hourly simple moving average. Finally, the price traded close to $8,000 and registered a nasty decline. A low was formed near $8,055, and the price is currently correcting higher slightly. When I first looked at prices this morning, I think Bitcoin's price was at 7,980 somewhere. It had briefly dipped below the $8,000 level. Here we go. There's a lot of reasons cumulatively why people think that the price of Bitcoin in the wider cryptocurrency market has gone down over the last 36 hours. Whenever Bitcoin prices fall off the cliff, industry observers scramble to find a reason beyond the technical indicators. Something fundamental must have caused the crash, and one industry executive has fingered the Fed's recent marketing meddling. Last week, the US Federal Reserve pumped more than the entire cryptocurrency market cap back into money markets in order to control lending rates. A surge in short-term rates last week threatened to disrupt the bond market and the overall lending system, which regulated in these overnight repurchases or repo agreements. Those cash injections have continued into this week as a further $100 billion has been flooded into the traditional markets. According to an official statement, the central bank schedule calls for another $75 billion of overnight repos to be sold every business day until the 10th of October. Every single day, $75 billion will be pumped into the traditional markets. Certain days will also be offering at least $30 billion worth of 14-day repos. The Fed appears to be back where it was roughly a decade ago, effectively buying U.S. treasuries from banks on an indefinite basis, according to the Bank of America research note. They said, for all intents and purposes, this will be the equivalent of quantitative easing. With scheduled repurchases of securities, we estimate that over the first year, the Fed would need to buy roughly $400 billion of Treasury securities to achieve an appropriate level of reserves plus a buffer, end quote. The news that we had a couple of days ago, while incredibly significant, may have also been or had an inverse effect on what we actually thought would happen to Bitcoin. It was widely believed, especially amongst many major crypto analysts in the market, people who read charts for a living, and they make sure to go over all of the data that we see. As we get news that the Federal Reserve is going to print more money, or has been printing more money, and plans on injecting money into the stock markets or any type of markets, is usually an indication that that market that they're pumping money into is not doing very well. I.e., why would you need to pump 75 billion is such an obscene amount of money. 75 billion per day into a market to keep it afloat. However, what actually ended up happening was, as opposed to people thinking that Bitcoin would kind of move up a bit higher or move out of its trading range that we saw with that little descending triangle, is that this actually caused what's the word? Hype in the stock markets over the last couple of days after this was announced, because for some reason people never learned their lesson. We know that this is exactly what happened 10 years ago. The markets appeared to not be doing well. The Fed started pushing money into the market. The market looked as if it was doing even better, and then it completely collapsed. However, for some reason, when this happened, the same exact thing that happened 10 years ago, they decided to announce that they're pumping as much money as possible into the markets to keep them afloat. But this also only actually boosted support in the stock market. This one says, this article from yesterday, and keeping in mind that yesterday is a very pivotal point because we had news on Monday, the 23rd, about the entire Fed doing the daily pumping the day after. This came out. It says, here are 3.4 trillion reasons the stock market could be poised for a big rally. This one says, stocks may be poised for a dramatic surge, technical analysts say. Because what happens is when you push that much money into any market, it's going to start to do well. But not even trying to continue on the discussion of what happened in 2008, exactly what we saw in 2007, leading up to 2008, to the end of 2008, to the beginning of 2009, is exactly what's happening once again. The same exact thing with all those mortgages and things that were packaged together. Everything is basically a repeat, if not an echo of what we saw before. So this is the first part of why people think or speculate that if stocks could potentially do better, and historically, or we have seen over the last year and some change, that whenever stocks do very well, Bitcoin does not do very well. When Bitcoin does great, it's usually because the stock market is going down for some reason, or rather as Bitcoin has over the last couple of months, a year, give or take, been known or seen as a hedge against banking tyranny, if I can kind of put it into those words. Gold and Bitcoin tend to react positively to anything negative happening around the world. This is what we've seen thus far. So one can only assume if the Fed is pumping hundreds of billions of dollars into the market for the next 2.5, 3 weeks, this would probably cause the stock market to potentially do very well and Bitcoin to not to do very well in its wake. On top of this, crypto whales are moving huge amounts of Bitcoin as the leading cryptocurrency's trademark volatility returns in the last 24 hours as Bitcoin shot from a high of 9,800 to a low of 8,300. Some of the biggest Bitcoin holders in existence began moving Bitcoin at a rapid rate. In all, whales had moved 37,225 Bitcoin, worth about $325 million in the last day alone. And that's just large Bitcoin transactions. That's not the entirety of the movements that are happening on the Bitcoin network. It's typically only anyone who has thousands, if not tens of thousands of Bitcoin as they're moving them through the market. The largest single transfer sent 10,000 Bitcoin, worth 86.3. Oh my gosh, what? Where's the 3 coming from? 86.8 million between two wallets of unknown origin. There's the tweet right there. The transfer could have been a trader moving assets from one wallet to another for security purposes, an exchange moving its assets around, or an over-the-counter sale between two private parties. What we have seen before in the past, I think I just spoke about this a day or two ago as well. Historically, we have seen, even especially when Bitcoin's price was lower and the volume wasn't as high as it currently is right now, I think Bitcoin over the last couple of days has usually averaged around in 17 billion US dollars worth of trading volume per day. Historically, what we've seen in the past, once again, is that whenever a large movement of Bitcoin takes place, the market tends to react negatively. I'm not sure essentially why. We know that there are whales out there. We know that these whales have the money. It's their Bitcoin. They can do as they wish. However, fear is an interesting thing, i.e., whenever we get news like this, this usually does like a double scare on people. So whenever large amounts of Bitcoin are moved, typically people in the market think, well, this wallet hasn't moved any Bitcoin in a year and a half. Why are they moving it now? Bitcoin has dropped by 4%. This wallet just moved 15,000 Bitcoin. Are they planning to sell it? Is there something that we don't know about? People, for some reason, always assume that whales are oracles or know a lot more than everyone else or the common people, and therefore they must be planning something with the movement of this Bitcoin. So, before in the past, we have seen, once again, when large amounts of Bitcoin are moved, Bitcoin's price goes lower. Keeping in mind, the Fed pumped and is going to continue to pump billions into the stock market over the next couple of weeks. And on top of that, very large transactions of Bitcoin were moved from wallets. And as it is pseudonymous, the Bitcoin network, we don't know exactly who received these payments. Before in the past, we have had That a sentence? We had the guy from Binance, Changpeng Cao, he made sure to announce on Twitter, he was like, I'm moving 25,000 Bitcoin. No one be alarmed. And I was very happy that he did that because the price didn't move down at all that day. A lot of times, a lot of exchanges will simply move money without actually caring what effect it could have on the market, or they may even do it on purpose. That may be the craziest part. However, as prices were dipping, people were moving around large amounts of Bitcoin, which then could have potentially also caused the price of Bitcoin to fall even further. Still with me? Because there's a lot more. Bitcoin lost more than price positions as its mining fell suddenly from near record levels to a rate around 30% lower. It's uncertain what caused the drop and whether it is a technicality of reporting. Bitcoin's hash rate fell from nearly 100 quintillion hashes, or 100 exahashes, down to 79 exahashes. The event happened right after the latest difficulty recalculation, which once again raised the difficulty level by 10.38%. The next difficulty recalculation is happening in less than 2 days, and the new lowered hash rate may stop the continuous climb of the difficulty. A lowered difficulty would allow miners to have a greater chance at discovering a block. Another explanation for this sudden drop is a crackdown on mining in Mongolia, a favorable region for ASIC farms due to low temperatures. China still holds the leads when it comes to mining, but Mongolia may also be a preferred location in the region. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, I will try my darndest to explain in the simplest terms. Everyone should know by this point that all the transactions that pass through the Bitcoin network are verified by other computers. I'm pretty sure you've seen something like this before. Room filled with thousands of computers that are validating Bitcoin transactions. What ends up happening is that as more computers come onto the network, the difficulty of being able to find a block or validate extra transactions to be able to receive Bitcoin as compensation goes up a lot higher. With the difficulty raising by 10.38%, that is incredibly significant. We have a number of mining farms, as they're being called around the world, that are doing as much as they possibly can to be able to have the chance to get extra, I don't dare say the word free Bitcoin, have to receive extra Bitcoin as they're validating transactions on the network. However, the news that we had a couple of days ago, especially from the people from Bitmain who are inside of China, they planned on, 600,000 new machines they have that they planned on going online with. We saw Bitcoin's hash rate skyrocket. After this happened, I assume other people around the world were also either turning on their computers, or a couple of days later, we assume that Bitmain had turned on their 600,000 computers to try and acquire more Bitcoin as they're validating transactions. What happens is, once again, the mining difficulty goes up. It makes it more difficult for everyone else to be able to do this. And one can only assume that typically, once again, historically, in the past, we have seen that whenever Bitcoin's hash rate goes up, it is usually followed by Bitcoin's price skyrocketing as well, because it's a big indication that people who are using their computers, using their resources, using their mining power capabilities are confident, therefore, in the price of Bitcoin going up, and therefore they're buying more machines to turn them on so that they can make further profits as the price of Bitcoin goes up, and they're mining the same roughly percentage of Bitcoin that they were before. Why, get it at this price when you can still get it at double the price but still the same mining difficulty? For some reason, no one knows yet for sure, but once again, this happened over the last 36 hours, I want to say even 40 hours. Let's give it, a couple of extra hours. Bitcoin's mining rate fell by 30%, which is leading a lot of people to believe that the people who could have turned on all those machines saw that the difficulty was going to rise, and in an effort to do so, shut them off so that the mining difficulty could lower, so that when it does lower, because I believe it is self-adjusting, that they can then turn them back on, speculation, and to be able to have an easier chance at getting more Bitcoin. What we've also seen around the world, not even just in Mongolia, talking really fast and I'm running out of breath. What we've seen before in other countries, and not just Mongolia, it's happened in China, it's happened in Canada, it's happened in Iceland and Greenland. I think it's also happened in northern Scotland as well, is that many people realize that when you mine Bitcoin, it takes up a lot of energy and a lot of heat. A lot of places in the north of the world have very inexpensive electricity and also have very cool regions. So instead of, long story short, you just pretty much throw your machines in a place where the air is cool so it doesn't get as hot, and the electricity is cheaper as it's usually run by hydroelectricity, as many places in the north have mountains, streams, rivers, lakes, valleys, whatever have you, so on and so forth, and they get cheap electricity. Governments around the world in 2016, 17, and the beginning of 2018 said that they did not care about Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency industry. It was not a threat to them. And at some point, they also made sure to notice, we don't care about cryptocurrency mining. I still personally believe that this was all said in an effort to try and move away interest from the cryptocurrency space by countries to simply say, it's not that important. You don't really have to care about it. What happened was that even as Bitcoin's price was going down, we had records every single day of Bitcoin's mining rate going up. More people and interest getting into the cryptocurrency space, using places where they had cheaper or nearly-ish free, not really free, but very cheap electricity. And then governments suddenly took notice. This was happening all around the world. You can find, almost said documents and data on it. You can find any type of article on it. It's definitely out there. At least 15 countries came forward and said, oh yeah, no, now we care. We also want a slice of the pie as well. So they started shutting down complete farms and all this other stuff, talking about that the electricity had been taken away illegally, or any previous rate that you had before on electricity. You're taking away electricity from farmers in the area, which one can only assume is probably a lie to be able to make sure that they pay higher rates. Anyway, at the same exact time, like I said before, if Bitcoin's hash rate goes up, it's usually followed by the price of Bitcoin going up. The hash rate dropping by 30%, that's 1/3 of the entire world's hash rate going down. That is quite dramatic. That could also then lead people to assume that something is wrong, something may have gone awry, and therefore Bitcoin's price may also be in trouble. So that's the hash rate dropping by 1/3, whales moving around hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and the Fed pumping money into the stock market. On top of this as well, prior to Litecoin kicking off a 200% rally that would spread to Ether and Bitcoin, Binance Coin was the shepherd that signaled the altcoin herds to rally forth in what is now affectionately referred to as alt season. Binance Coin far outpaced Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum as it rallied near 600% compared to Bitcoin's 300% rise from $3,100 to $13,800. Normally, the idea is that Binance Coin is unaffected by the drops in Bitcoin's price or anything else. It usually follows its own type of tune. The Binance Coin token perked up a bit once the exchange announced, that is Binance, that the US version of Binance would soon launch, but sentiment again soured as the media reported that the number of digital assets and paired offered paled in comparison to the original platform. What happened is that, if I'm not mistaken, it was yesterday. On Tuesday, Binance.us also revealed that Cardano, Bakkt, Ethereum Classic, Stellar Lumens, and 0x would be listed, and deposits for the altcoins were now open. Binance US launched yesterday, I believe. There seems to be no real correlation as to exactly what would happen. Apparently, from what I've seen on the interwebs, is that a lot of people were saying that the launch of Binance US, coupled with the launch of a couple of other things that didn't seem to go as well or gain as much attention as they thought that they would, could have potentially had a negative effect on the price of Bitcoin. That one's a bit shaky. I'm a little 50-50 on it. However, I have not heard personally many people who are talking about using Binance.us. Many people are just finding ways to use the normal Binance without actually having to sign up to Binance US. Why? Because Binance US is heavily under the control of US regulators, and therefore people who are trying to use Binance US are required to give their personal information when they were not even requested to do so before. You have to give your name, your address, your phone number, a bunch of other things to be able to use Binance US, and therefore this may have been a slow start to Binance's entry into the United States. And typically before, we've seen whenever something does try to launch in the US and we get relatively negative news about a slow launch or something like that, it also has a negative effect on Bitcoin. Bitcoin tumbled 9% in a half hour on Tuesday, sending prices to the lowest in 3 months in a rapid sell-off, even by the tumultuous standards of the cryptocurrency markets. They said even for Bitcoin, this is a pretty rare event. This is the director of product at Masari. He said this. Here's a little chart right here. The price started to plunge around 1830 UTC and stabilized around 19 o'clock. A trader who wished to remain anonymous said the price drop may have been exacerbated by margin calls and contract liquidations on BitMEX, a Seychelles-based exchange that provides customers with 100x leverage. That's insane. These are essentially loans to traders that multiply the size of an investment by 100 times. While that sounds great, if you do well and actually execute the trade properly, you get the thing by, your investment by 100 times. However, if you do it incorrectly, you're still on the 100x leverage and you and your money are evaporated. I read an article a couple of weeks ago. It was the saddest thing in the entire world. I won't even tell you how to find it. There was a trader. He was doing something, I believe, with a 30 or 40x leverage. Had his position wiped out, and I think he lost $8.3 million in a couple of seconds. The margin calls were noted by DataMish, a data platform. We contacted BitMEX for comment, but were unable to reach a representative at press time. A long squeeze, the opposite of a short squeeze, is a situation in which investors who hold long positions feel the need to sell into a falling market to cut their losses. This pressure to sell usually leads to further decline in market prices. The situation that happened was a lot of people had very long positions on Bitcoin. People believed that Bitcoin's price was poised to move upwards as we were nearing the end of the trading range. What happened is that as prices began to fall, people realized, as people have, what are those things called? Not price points. You can have like things sent to your phone, like price action apps. If Bitcoin is below a certain amount, if Bitcoin looks like it's going to be falling, you can get like a notification to your phone. I can't remember the name of all the apps. There's tons of them. When we get an indication, or traders get an indication, that Bitcoin's price is currently at 9,700, looks like it's falling to 9,500 over the course of a couple of hours, and then goes from 9,500 to around 9,000 over the course of about 6, 7, 8 minutes, people panic. Normally, especially as we were at the end of a trading range, we typically see a bit of a slide, and then there may be a jump upwards, or there's a slide down, and then it continuously goes down. So one can also logically assume if Bitcoin's price on charts was 9,700 on the 24th of September, yesterday, showed signs of falling to around 9,200 over the course of a 12-hour period, people started to sell as the price of Bitcoin actually started to move down. Everyone who had, or a lot of people who had long positions, began to also sell as well, because it was clearly obvious at that point that Bitcoin was going straight down. And what happens, we should all know, when people who have 3 Bitcoin start to sell, other people start to sell, and 25 Bitcoin starts to sell, and people who also potentially are holding millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, the whales, they also panic and they also start to sell. This is a very dramatic drop. I personally believe it has to be a cumulative effort by all of these things coming together over the last 12 hours. Simply because even when we've had dips before in the past, it wasn't this dramatic. However, this is also only what happened on this one platform. One can only assume that on Binance, on Coinbase, BitMEX, blah, 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 this place, that place, they all had similar situations, because they also, many of them also have different price metrics as different people are trading on different platforms. I saw Bitcoin's price at one point anywhere between 7,900 and 8,400. There's a huge gap because people didn't really understand exactly what was happening in the market. There was nothing really to lead people to tell them exactly what was going on. You can only have so many websites open on a screen at one time, and therefore, this is probably one of the heavier reasons as to why the price of Bitcoin went down. Just gonna keep that there. And once again, we're not even done. Like this, once again, this all happened within the last 20 hours. It's actually a bit odd, the sequence of events. Trading of Bakkt's physically backed Bitcoin futures saw something of a slow start at launch on Monday, minutes after the launch at 12 noon UTC. The first Bakkt ICE futures contract changed hands at $10,115. The number of contracts in the first hour stood at just 5 total contracts at press time. 10 hours or so later, 28 contracts have been traded, with just one at sub 10,000 Bitcoin price. And that's just for the monthly contracts. For the daily contracts, arguably Bakkt's flagship product, the volume looks even more tepid. I believe over the current, I can't remember the exact numbers. I had it in my head. Bitcoin, I think the first day, had 17 contracts in total. And then a couple of hours later, I think they had only traded around, there we go. I was going to say 68. By that time, trading in the monthly contract totaled around 66 Bitcoin. A lot of people believed, it says, I'm shocked that there isn't any volume. I absolutely thought the contract was going to fly out of the gate. Very odd, end quote. A lot of people thought that once Bakkt had launched, and I think it's just very bad timing with launch time, that Bitcoin's price would skyrocket because, once again, we saw before in the past in 2017 that as Bitcoin futures were launched, especially physical Bitcoin futures, that's actually what caused the Bitcoin to go from around 6,500 to 20,000 over the course of a 2 or 3 week period. However, we weren't in a tight range when that happened in 2017. What we had been dealing with since July, very long time, is that Bitcoin was in a very tight descending wedge, and Bakkt got caught in that. Nobody was trading. Nobody wants to trade when Bitcoin is in a descending wedge. You have to also keep in mind, it's not just normal people who are in the market. The people who are and were expected to get into Bakkt are very, very wealthy people who have either been in the markets for a very long time, have studied the markets, are planning to invest potentially hundreds of millions, if not a billion or multiple billions into the market. They have people who come to them and tell them exactly what the market is looking like, exactly where things are going to go, and they make sure not to simply dump billions of dollars into a market that could potentially be going down. All indications could have pointed to a couple of days ago, without anyone really understanding, except for maybe major market players, that Bitcoin's price was going to go down because of accumulation of all the negative news that we've had, negative air quotes, over the last couple of days. And therefore, this may be, no one knows, speculatively, the reason why Bakkt didn't start off amazingly wonderfully. Also keeping in mind that at the same exact time, people thought Bakkt was going to do well. It may do well in the future. It did not do well for the first 2 days of it starting to trade. The day after Bakkt launches, Bitcoin's price goes down from 9,700 to around 9,400 and then tumbles. One can then only assume that many more people afraid of Bitcoin's price falling further would not have any interest in getting into the cryptocurrency market, especially as prices once again could continue to fall. It's just so much. I try to take things as they are. I try to see it from a wider perspective. However, all of this happening within the last 36 to 48 hours is a bit suspicious in my eyes. We've had instances before in the past where things have happened with Bitcoin, negative news, other things happening. Maybe this broke, maybe this didn't work, maybe this didn't so-and-so. And Bitcoin's price has fallen a bit, but this is a bit too, and I don't even want to use the word coordinated, but something feels coordinated adjacent, if you get what I'm saying. On top of this, yesterday, once again, same exact time frame, as Cointelegraph reported on the 20th of September, the United States House of Representatives Financial Services Committee was holding a hearing yesterday on the 24th of September with the SEC Chairman Jay Clayton and 4 other SEC commissioners. At the time of the announcement, the published agenda included such critical topics for Cointelegraph's readers, such as the SEC's Howey test, which is when you test how something or if something is a security, or considering cryptocurrency securities, regulation strategy for Facebook's Libra, the 144A exemption that crypto officers, not even important, continuing so on and so on. Financial Services Chair Maxine Waters began the hearing with statements touching on the wide range of the SEC's activities, singling Facebook's Libra out saying that it appears that Facebook is looking to establish a new global financial system intending on rivaling the US dollar, which they most certainly are. Republican ranking member Patrick McHenry encouraged the SEC to reduce regulatory barriers, saying that you will hear a lot of doom and gloom today. It's not all doom and gloom. A couple of minutes later, Commissioner Robert J. Jackson Jr. emphatically supported greater transparency for corporate political spending and the need to provide greater transparency for consumers and investors. Where's the other interesting part? It's somewhere around here. They kept on talking for a long time. The US and many other countries do not like Libra. They think it is the bane of the US dollar, which, to be fair, it is. Many people have called for a moratorium on Facebook's Libra, pretty much saying, drop it, stop it, don't use it anymore, let it go, stop everything that you're doing until we can get hold of this. However, the people from Libra and Facebook have pretty much said, nope. It is widely speculated, and no one knows if this is true. However, I don't even want to include myself in that. A lot of people think that the launch of Facebook's Libra coin could have a positive effect on the cryptocurrency space. I know that sounds crazy. However, we have had news before from Zuckerberg and a number of other people. I'm pretty sure you can find this on Google. Google in Facebook using Bitcoin, or like Facebook, we wanted to use Bitcoin. It had to be around 2 weeks ago at this point. Zuckerberg and a number of other people said that they planned on actually using Bitcoin for their daily money services operations. However, they decided not to because of the slowness of Bitcoin and its network, and therefore they decided to make their own currency. So the speculation was, or is, two-sided. If Libra launches and does well, therefore the cryptocurrency space as a whole would get more transparency, or rather more people would know about it, and therefore people would jump into the market. If Libra doesn't do well, people would realize how great that Bitcoin was, and therefore they would start to put their money into Bitcoin. The other side of it, or rather the very center of both of them, is that this is where I say the we. A lot of people believe that if or when Libra does launch, as they're making their wallet open source, that a number of people will start to make wallets with the Libra platform, use blah, 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 code, whatever you kind of want to call it, and start to integrate other cryptocurrencies into it as well, so that other people who are on their phones using the Libra wallet or the whatever so-and-so through some other app to send payments would also be able to send money through Bitcoin as well, therefore potentially opening up Bitcoin, or the word Bitcoin, to around a couple billion people. Also on top of that is the belief that if the people from Facebook had intended to originally use Bitcoin on their platform, that when they launch Libra and the wallet through Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp, that they may then also announce that they're also going to be adding Bitcoin. So either way, the speculation is, whether good or bad for Libra, or even just somewhere in the middle, that Bitcoin will do well by being able to access, or having access to, 2.4 billion new people on the planet. However, once again, governments around the world do not like Facebook at all. And the constant discussions that government leaders have been having, especially any type of negativity towards Facebook and Libra, as we saw before in the past about a couple of weeks ago, is that it is widely believed that, I believe we had a couple of countries who said that they were going to ban Libra. You can't have it. We don't want it. We don't so and so and so. And Bitcoin's price dropped that same exact day. So putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5, we can assume that this happening yesterday, talking negatively about the cryptocurrency space, what cryptocurrencies might be considered securities, or just a general sign of negativity towards Libra in general, potentially not even being able to launch, or not launching in France, Germany, Russia, China, and the United States, could have put a damper on the future outlook of cryptocurrencies within the market, and therefore this could have also allowed the prices to also have gone down. Get what I'm saying? Hope so. Once again, this all happened yesterday. It's too obvious. It's too much at the exact same time. There was just a lot of. Normally, this news is spread out. We get news like this. It takes about a good week and a half, maybe about a good 10 days for all this news to kind of flood the market. But we got it all at once. This is why I still believe that this was all coordinated. On top of this as well, we spoke about this yesterday. Coordinated, sorry. The SEC has delayed once again another Bitcoin ETF. And what we've seen, say it with me, historically in the past, is that whenever, thus far, over the last couple of years, whenever the SEC has said no to an ETF or has delayed the saying yes to a Bitcoin ETF, the market has gone down. Coupling the normal procedure of Bitcoin's price going down by a delay from the SEC with the United States talking negatively about cryptocurrencies and Libra, Bakkt not doing very well, Bitcoin price going down on a number of exchanges, Binance also not doing well, Binance US not doing too well, Bitcoin's hash rate dropping by 30%. What? That's completely insane. Whales panicking, moving around tons of money, potentially also following through with that other thing as well and dumping tons of money onto the market as they were also potentially afraid that the Bitcoin price would move lower and therefore also having that power actually pushed Bitcoin's price even lower. And the potential for the news that we've had yesterday that stocks may potentially do well as billions of dollars is going to continuously be pumped on a daily basis over the next couple of weeks. This seems logically, cumulatively, to be the reason why Bitcoin dropped down yesterday. I'm fairly certain, and it makes me very annoyed that this will continue to happen, we are going to continue to have multiple companies who are foolishly, nicest word I can use, trying to get a Bitcoin ETF pushed through. The SEC has said many times they do not care for, they do not want to, and they probably are not going to for a very long time push any type of Bitcoin ETF to go through. This is why we saw a couple of days ago the people from Van Eck and SolidX withdrawing their Bitcoin proposal because someone probably already told them, nope, definitely not going to happen. So the next one that we have is from the New York Stock Exchange, ARCA. They're trying to list a Bitcoin ETF, and I think the SEC has another 30 days. There we go. The SEC faces a final deadline to approve or disapprove a Bitcoin ETF proposed by Bitwise Asset Management in the middle of October. For the love of goodness, stop trying to get a Bitcoin ETF pushed through. Move on. There are other things that we can do. I'm not screaming at you guys and gals. Screaming at companies. What is this obsession with trying to be the first company to get a Bitcoin ETF to go through when you know, well, for the past 5 years, no one has been able to do so. Every single time that we get a no, Bitcoin's price drops. It's quite annoying. Oh, you know what I even just thought about as well? I didn't see any news about this. I would not be shocked. Usually, as what are they called? The CBOE, as their Bitcoin futures contracts are nearing an end, we've seen the price of Bitcoin also tumble to equate to what their Bitcoin futures showed on their prices. I would not be shocked at all if their futures are about 7 days away, if not a bit less, from resolving, and therefore that also had a detrimental effect on Bitcoin's price. I just thought about that right now. I completely forgot about the fiat-based Bitcoin futures. Anyway, it's probably logical. If we saw it before in the past, about a good 16 other times, that's not an over-exaggeration. We get about 7 companies per year. I'll even put it at 4. I held up 5 fingers as I said 4, and I feel sad. 4 companies who put in an ETF proposal, and the SEC says no and or wait more to them, I think around a good 2 or 3 times per year. It happens over and over, and Bitcoin's price goes down every single time. This time is no different. What we have right now is a bit of bearish feelings in the market. I don't know why there are bearish feelings. Bitcoin should not be anywhere below 10,000. However, I still and will for a very long time speculate, or rather, what's the opposite of speculate without knowing? It's fairly obvious to me, as we've had a lot of news before about very rich people trying to do whatever they can to buy up as much Bitcoin as possible, that there could have been, no one knows for certain, some type of a coordinated action attack event taking place to try and push Bitcoin's price as low as possible. Bitcoin fell. It went around 7,900. It is currently at 8,452, depending on where you look at your price. The price is trying to move itself back up. Don't be shocked at all if Bitcoin's price goes down once again. I saw a lot of people in the comment section yesterday talking about that they were buying the dip. I know a lot of people hit these levels right here. It was just almost too good to be true that Bitcoin would have fallen so much. If Bitcoin's price goes up above 9,400 within the next 2 days, this was coordinated as heck. That means people made sure to push down the prices as much as possible to accumulate as much more as possible as they seemingly could have. Once again, this is also, by the end of October, we will know for certain. By the end of October, we are in the exact, I wish I had the chart open. We are in the exact same movements that we saw in 2017. And I kid you not, it's almost exactly the same as far as price movements. Before Bitcoin's price skyrocketed in 2017, we had another dramatic dip. I think Bitcoin went from 7,000 to around 4,000, somewhere around there. Same exact dip. And then it skyrocketed. Don't know if it's going to happen. I'm just simply spreading the news that it's a little bit all too familiar, if that kind of makes any sense, especially the huge drop, couple of $1,000s. So I think it was a massive accumulation of everything that we've seen over the last, I was going to say couple of weeks, over the last day. It's far too obvious, at least in my eyes. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters: Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Adam Graysick, Mohair Maroney, Master Ventures in Thailand, Brady Niels, Woody and Daisy, Triple M and J, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, 242 to the World, Crypto Joe, Bankroll Network, Adobo, Mill Wheezy, JR, Mechanic, Strange Radio Central, Crypto Artist, Coldy, 3D, Cryptopolis, Nicholas, Runner with One Piece, One Love, Damien, Setsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Rich III, Vlad the Impaler, Krypton Beer Shipmate, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Garner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, Kyle, nope, wrong, Miller Hitch Chest every day, and Kyle Skips Leg Day. I don't know why I read Kyle first. And yes, to crypto. Thank you all very, very much for your support. You should already know, at the moment, the entire market is in the red. I don't think there's any anomalies. Tether's Satoshi price is up by 15%, if that makes anyone out there happy. Nothing is really, all the stable coins are up because they're being used. Nothing really else up at the moment. Hold on. Just bear with me for a second. I'm going to see if I can scroll this whole thing out, because I'm very interested to see if I can show everyone. I was looking at it and I was like, okay, that's a bit too obvious. Not year to date, not 3 months. Let's try and go all. Wish I could make this even larger. Here we go. So, nope, this doesn't even really have it. Anyway, the point being, where is it? The other chart was so much better. It's this movement right here. You can't really see it. There's a jump and a drop, a jump and a drop, a jump and a drop, and then we skyrocketed. It's the exact same thing. Jump, drop, jump, drop, jump, drop. And then right around here is this exact same movement. You just can't see it because everything has been kind of squeezed together. We dropped, see around right here? 7. Oh, I can't really get to it because the screen is so small. It doesn't really matter. And I can't also like lower it. Anyway, the point being, we're mimicking the exact same actions. But Bitcoin's price this time isn't starting at 6,200. It's starting around the couple $1,000 area. No one knows what's going to happen. Like I always say, that's what makes it very exciting. However, by the 30, 32 days, 35 days. And the numbers that we've seen, and I've seen a lot of analysts talking about this as well, and why not? I'll share it with the group. People think that by the middle of October, Bitcoin's price could be 17,000 to coincide with a number of other events that are also supposed to be taking place. And that it's really a very weird numbers game, if you kind of want to put it that way. There are a number of analysts who are anywhere from 16,000, 24,000 to around $100,000 by the end of this year for Bitcoin's price. To be fair, once again, Bitcoin went from 900 to 20,000. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Bitcoin could go from 8,000 to 24,000 by the end of December. Trying not to get my hopes up. Really pushing them down way low. Anyway, yes, long story short, very long story short, this seems to be the reason why Bitcoin went down. Everything happened on the exact same day. One can only assume this is why it all took place. I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are not enjoying that the price went down, or maybe you enjoyed that you got to buy some more Bitcoin as the price went down. Hope you all enjoyed buying. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are. Wherever you might be, I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening. I have a feeling the rest of this week is going to be quite fascinating as well. Thank you all once again for watching and listening, and I will definitely be talking to you all soon. Excuse me. See you.